Merci. Science has demonstrated direct biological effects of loss of parental care and abuse on well-being of the children. We have a lot of scientific literature. For instance, the genetically inclined children will have in their lives a greater risk of panic disorders if they had a history of parental loss. Or for example, it has been demonstrated that in a population, the parental separation increases CRP levels in adulthood by a change of disadvantage across the life course. And these CRP levels are correlated in adulthood with type 2 diabetes, coronary heart disease, depression, and a lot of other important diseases. What it would be very interesting, because this research has been performed in the UK, where the shared custody is not very common. It would be very interesting to know if we obtain the same outcomes, for example, in Sweden, where the shared custody is more than 50%. It has been demonstrated in an association of elevated cytokines with childhood resting sample of healthy adults. So it's very important that this association was found, in healthy adults. And so it means that this alteration can precede the development of stress-related psychiatric disorder or disease. Stressor factors can have even a direct action on chromosomes. Adverse childhood events are related to continued vulnerability among older adults, enhancing the impact of chronic stress factor. What is very important to highlight is that the stressor factors can damage the terminal portion, the telomeric portion of the chromosome. So the chromosome will be weaker all the life long, and so it will be easier to be damaged. For abuse, specific childhood abuse has been demonstrated to lead to an increase of metabolic disease, cancer, and chronic disease. There's a lot of influence on hormonal assessment, for example, with oxytocin. Oxytocin has different action, but for example, one action, is the hormone of falling in love. And so could explain why the children coming from a dramatic divorce can have a bad relation with the other sex when they will be adults. But has been demonstrated in the human correlation between childhood abuse and the epigenetic regulation of the stress hormone, the glucocorticoid. But we must not be really surprised, because we have in fact a lot of evidence in mammals, also primates, of the organic effects of parental loss. For sure, much more are studied the effect of maternal loss, but also the studies about the effects of paternal loss will be increasing. So, for example, has been investigated a specific mouse, a monogamous California mouse. The specificity is that this mouse has biparental care and monogamous bonding. In this mouse, during critical neurodevelopment periods, the paternal deprivation leads to sex-dependent abnormality in social and related behaviors that are associated with disturbance in cortical dopamine and glutamate neurotransmission. Or for example, closer to the human species, TT monkeys is a particular monkey, also with biparental bonding and monogamous relation. In this case, the separation from the mother for 1 hour did not elicit a adrenocortical response from the infant unless the father was also removed. On the other side, the separation from the father elicited a significant elevation in adrenocortical activity even when the mother remained with the infant. So in this case, paternal deprivation can induce hemispheric asymmetry of the dendritic morphology of somatosensory pyramidal neurons. So these outcomes by electronic microscopy, cannot be not questionable, objective substance. These are another rodent, Degus degus. Even this rodent has biparental bonding monogamous behavior. Paternal deprivation induced dendritic and synaptic change and hemispheric asymmetry of pyramidal neurons in the somatosensory cortex. So it's difficult to imagine that we cannot have any consequence in the human. But we can have also less biological, less objective effects of stress and parental loss. Especially in the USA literature, we find correlation of father loss with sexual activity. The fathers of the children are dramatically greater risk of drug and alcohol abuse, mental illness, suicide, poor educational performance, drinking problems. It's easier to be victim of sexual abuse. The use of alcohol and marijuana affects significantly the behavior of adolescents, fatherless adolescents. Today we saw the research leading to HOMSER, a Swedish national survey of malinvestment. Perhaps it's more questionable than the research with electronic microscopy, but I think that was a meaningful outcome. So the first take-home message that I try to bring back to your home is that co-parenting is not just a juridic, psychological, sociological concept anymore, but a medical scientific issue too. So we can say, in an European approach, that the competence should be not only of Justice Commissioner. Unfortunately, according to the official opinion of the European Commission, the definition of joint custody belongs to substantive family law. As such, it doesn't fall within the European Union's competence, but remains under the sole responsibility of the member states. This explains why there may be difference in the national systems as regards the definition of joint custody and how it works in practice. But we have important difference in Europe. You see, in Sweden, exact time division more than 25% of the children. In Belgium, more than 20%. France, Denmark, Spain, between 8 and 20%. UK and Germany, between 3 and 8%. In the end, you find in Romania, Austria, Czech Republic, Italy, Greece, exact time division less than 3%. But this is acceptable. If you have a pneumonia, if you have a pharyngitis, you go in Paris, you go in Vancouver, you go in Washington, by your doctor in Croatia, and you'll be treated more or less in the same way because there are guidelines commonly shared by the scientific community. A shared custody more than 30% of the children we find in Sweden, Belgium, Denmark, probably in Spain, France, more or less around 27, 8, 30%. Shared custody under 15% we find in Italy, Switzerland, Greece, Germany, Czech Republic. Very interesting, 14% of Swedish children ends up to lose contact with one parent after the divorce. In Italy it's 30%. In UK it's 40%. But all these differences are not just juridic differences. They concern the health of the children. So to coming back to the title of our conference, Bridging the Gap Between Empirical Evidence and Social Legal Practice, how could we introduce this approach in the law, in the procedures? I have prepared a new question to the European Commission and make it presented in the last April. This is the question. After we have established that it's sometimes simply a case of crossing a border for children to be unjustifiably treated in a totally different way, after we have demonstrated in Strasbourg last October that we can have both immediate and long-term effects caused by parental separation on the children's health, can the Commission say whether, in order to ensure equal rights to health, different commissioner, not the Commissioner of Justice, the Commissioner for the Health. In order to ensure equal rights to health, it is intended to conduct or assess research to identify the best practice that might serve as a guide for member states with a view to greater harmonization of procedures. Because we saw that parental loss can cause organic and biological damage. We saw that parental loss change a lot from country to country. So it's not acceptable because under the competence of the European Union, we have even the health. Stop, but it was we have the answer. It's blocked. It's not going on. Because a few days ago arrived finally the answer of the European Commission. I could imagine that it was not. Okay, this is the answer. You can see the date, 4 July, so a few days ago. The Commission is aware of differences in the national systems and diverging practice when it comes to granting and exercising custody rights and maintenance and their possible impacts on children. It is of the opinion that in all action concerning children, the primary consideration must be the best interest of the individual child. It's very interesting knowing how they assess the best interest. Such an assessment can obviously be done only on a case-by-case basis. I don't agree, because we must have a rail track with two sides, a river bed with two sides grounded on scientific basis. But in the end, there's a light of openness, because they say that the matters raised by the honorable member will be assessed in the overall review of the Brussels second regulation, and more broadly, of the European Union policy in respect of the promotion of the protection of the rights of the child. This is very important, because if we obtain the switch from the juridic field to the scientific, the situation can be completely different, and the European Union can really help us. To bridge the gap between empirical evidence and social legal practice, because we talk, we discuss, I present research, but in the end we have to go as well in the court to match the judge, to match the common policy. So we must really bridge the gap between empirical evidence and social legal practice. We prepare two different projects of law. Me and lawyer Pillon, who is a speaker in another workshop, trying to introduce scientific guidelines for the judge. Well, in this scientific guideline, the first option is equal custody, like in Belgium. But what's happened in Belgium? In Belgium, the law on hébergement égalitaire said that the first option for the judge is the equal custody. Half of the time by the father, half of the time by the mother. But the judge, in his autonomy, is free to refuse, and he refuses actually in 63% of cases. So what's happened in Belgium? They don't have a parachute. So all you get alternative custody, you have a lot of probability to have, despite a good law, 2 weekends per month, like in Italy, like in the most of the country. So we put a parachute. Second option. Second option, if the judge refuses the first option, equal custody, not less than 10 overnights per month spent by less involved parents. A flow chart, like in medicine. Presumption of equal custody. You go in the front of the judge, you have to follow the presumption of equal custody. If you refuse, it's possible you refuse, especially the Italian judge, you have to specify a motivation. This is the first gate. And you go in share custody in a range of 33–66%, 10 overnights against 20 overnights by the parent number one. But if he doesn't want to allow to give the share custody, you must specify a second motivation in the second gate. And only in this case it can arrive to sole physical custody. Our hope is, as the judge doesn't like to write too much, probably I think that at maximum one motivation they will love to write. I think that the way for co-parenting will be hard and long for sure. And I mean, in our project of law that is very complex, we have introduced the parenting plan from Holland, the law of Belgium on the presumption of equal custody. It seems to work very well in the courts, for example, in Spain, some courts in Spain, the common account, bank account, where both the parents give money, put money. So there's no anymore a parent giving money to the other parent, but all the money arrive on the same account, and both the parents can take up because of the needing of the children. I think that we can succeed. For example, you have to think that in 1985 there was no countries in Europe with at least 30% of shared custody of the children. But in 2000, Sweden, and now we have about 4 countries, Denmark, Belgium, Sweden, Spain and France, more or less are about 30%, 29, 27, 32. I think that in the end, so this is a big hope, because if you see this situation, this wave coming from the north, I mean, we must only be happy. We can succeed like this shift in the Arctic Ocean in the middle of August. Thanks, everybody.